My grade 3 learners, I welcome you to our today's class. It is our English lesson. I want to believe you are all well. I'm also very well. Today, we want to get back to our last lesson and to check and to learn more about adjectives. We'll be checking on what we learned on adjectives and get to know much more about adjectives. So I want to welcome you and to encourage you to feel in class. Adjectives. An adjective is a word that tells us more about a noun or a pronoun. An adjective is a word that tells us more about a noun or a pronoun. Meaning, for you to be able to tell or to identify an adjective, you should be in a position to identify the noun or a pronoun. And by now, I know you're very confident to say a noun is a name of a person, a place, or a thing. So an adjective is going to tell us more about a person, a place, or a thing. We're also saying an adjective tells more about a pronoun. A pronoun is a word that we use in place of a noun. Let us see this. We are saying an adjective So you can read with me here. An adjective is a word used to tell more about a noun or a pronoun. And we have said we should be able again to tell ourselves what is a noun and what is a pronoun. A noun is a naming word, a name of a person, a name of a place, or a name of a thing. A pronoun is a word, or it's a word that we are going to use instead of repeating the noun. Instead of having the noun again, we use a pronoun. Let us see this in sentence form. Let us try and ask ourselves if we can be able to identify the adjectives in given sentences. I have my sentence number 1. My father is a big man. Sentence number 1. My father is a big man. We are talking about my father. My father is a person. Him being a person, tells us that this is the noun, the person we are talking about. In this sentence, there is a word that is telling us about my father. It is telling us what kind of a man. It is telling more about the man who is my father. My father is a big man. What kind of a man is? He is a big man. It is telling his size. So if you meet any man around our place, like if you visit us and you come and find the big man in my family or in our house, you'll be able to tell that is my father. Why? Because the word already has been able to tell more about the man. So this word that is telling us more about a person is the word we call an adjective. In most cases, an adjective will come before a noun. An adjective will come before a noun. Another example, I saw a tall building. I saw a tall building. I know you have walked to places and you have seen different buildings out there. The building I'm talking about, or the building I have seen, is a tall one. So in this case, somebody will ask, an adjective tells us more about a noun. And somebody will also remind himself not only a noun, but also a pronoun. In this sentence, I am talking about myself. I've said, Rose saw a tall building. I have not used Rose, I have used I. This word I that stands in place of a person, or in place of a thing, or in place of an object, that is the word we are calling a pronoun. So in this case, we will be talking about a pronoun. The pronoun I, that is talking about a person, but we are not using the name of that person. We are not using the noun. So in this case, in this sentence, we are talking about a pronoun. So there is a word that is telling, we have used I, and we have also talked about a building. We are describing the building. We are telling more about the building. I saw a tall building. What kind of a building did I see? It was a tall building. This word that is telling more about the building is the thing. So the building is the noun. What kind of a building did I see? A tall building. So the word tall is an adjective. The word tall is an adjective. It is telling us more about a noun. It is telling us more about a thing. And I want to give another example here. I believe we are moving together very well, and you are able to identify the adjectives. My third sentence, they bought a new car. They bought a new car. Always remember to have a full stop at the end of your sentence. So we are talking about something here. The thing we are talking about here is the car. So the car is the noun. We have a word that is telling us more about the kind of car that these people bought. They bought a new car. So what kind of a car did they buy? New. So if I walk around, I'll be looking at, have I seen a new car around? Yes, oh, that's the car that they bought. So this word that is telling us more about the car is the word we are calling an adjective. It's the word we are calling an adjective. So an adjective is a word that will tell us more about a noun or a pronoun. And we should always be able to tell in a sentence which is the noun and which is the pronoun. Once you're able to identify the noun and the pronoun, it is very easy for you to tell the adjective. So having done that, we also want to check deeper into adjectives. We want to check deeper into adjectives and be able to understand what we call comparative adjectives. Comparative adjectives. When you look at the word comparative, you might be hiding yourself and saying, wow, that's a very big word. No, the word comparative, it is from the word compare. We compare. I can look at somebody, two people, and I'll be able to tell. For example, I can compare their height. You will find there is a person who is tall. If you're not tall, it means you are short. Or you could both be tall, but we have one who is taller than the other. So when you're talking of comparative adjectives, we use them to compare. We use this. They compare comparative adjectives. These are adjectives that we use to compare two things. They are adjectives that we use to compare two things. When we use them, for you to easily know a comparative adjective, they are going to use a very key word here. They use an ER at the end and the word than. And comparative adjectives, they are going to use the word than, and they are also going to have an ER. Before we look at some sentences, I want to help you to see what I'm saying. We want to compare. In my family, I am big. In my family, I am big. I have some sisters and brothers, but I have one sister I want to compare myself to. So, between my sister and I am the one who is bigger. Both of us are big. But when you look keenly, I am bigger. So both of us are big, but there is one who is bigger than the other. I have added an ER to the word big to make bigger. The word bigger is a comparative adjective. I can use this word in a sentence and say, I am bigger than my sister. I am bigger than my sister. What does that mean? We have compared two people, my sister and I. And I've said both of us are big. Both of us are big. But when we compare very well, I am bigger. So in this case, the word bigger is a comparative adjective. The word bigger is a comparative adjective. The same sentence, we can talk of, let's use a different word. So we have said big, bigger. I add an ER and I use the word than. I will also talk of an animal. I know we have some animals, an animal that is tall, and you compare it with another, we will have taller. Tall, this is when you're talking about one animal. Taller, when you're now comparing two animals. And for example, I'll say, a giraffe is taller than a deer. A giraffe is taller than a deer. What does that mean? These two animals are tall. They are both tall. But one of those animals is taller than the other. So in this case, the word tall becomes taller. It has an ER. And as we are comparing two things, we will talk of than. The comparative adjectives. They have an ER and they also use the word than. We can give another example of a word, another example of a word. In our class, we know we have people who are short. We have people who are short. That person, one person, will be short. If I take two people and try to see what the other person or one of them is going to be shorter. So, shorter is a comparative adjective. I am going to use the word shorter to compare between two people. So we can come up with a sentence and say, Amina is shorter than Abdi. Always remember, names of people are proper nouns. They will always begin with a capital letter. And again, it is our basic rule to have a full stop at the end. So Amina is shorter than Abdi. We have ER added to the word short and the word than when we are comparing Amina and Abdi. So when we are comparing between two people, we use a comparative adjective. And a comparative adjective is formed by adding the letters ER to the given adjective. Then we have also agreed that we have to use the word than when you're comparing, because you're talking of one person compared to the other person. So having known that, it is very important to know how to add ER. It is important that we also get to know how to add ER. We have talked of the word small and we came up with the comparative adjective smaller. We have the word thin. When we are adding an ER to this word and many other words that have a consonant at the end, and before the consonant is a single vowel, we are expected to double the last consonant. Just like we do with the doing words when we are adding an ing. So when you're coming up with a comparative word for thin, you are expected to double the last consonant. I have another example, the word fat. We have the last consonant here is a T and we have a vowel A. So for us to get the comparative adjective, I am going to double the last consonant. When do we double? We double if it is a vowel before the last consonant. We always say if it is preceded by a vowel. So you have to double the last consonant. Then observe this. You also have a word like wise. We have a word like wise. We have to be very careful with these words. Words that end with an E and the words that have a vowel anytime we are changing them. So the same. When we have a word with an E here, before we add the ER, we have to ensure that we don't add an ER here. In this case, you're only going to add an R. If a word ends with an E, when you're adding the ER, we are not going to make this mistake. We are not going to make this mistake of adding an ER when you have an E at the end. So if you have an E at the end, you are only supposed to add an R. I believe up to that point, we are able to tell exactly on the comparative adjectives. We are able to identify them in sentences, and we are also able to write them correctly. We are able to add the ER correctly. Having done that, let us test ourselves and see if we are able, one, to add an ER to make comparative adjective. Add ER to make. This is an exercise. I want you to attempt to it. Add ER to make comparative adjectives. I want to give you a list of words, some few words. I want you to add an ER to see if you're able to come up with the comparative adjectives. And the first word is strong. strong. You're sure the comparative is going to be stronger. So that example is already done for you. Then continue with this. Number 2, smart. Smart. Number 3, brave. And number 4, I want you to change the word thick. I want you to change the word thick. So you have a few minutes to do that. Hoping you're done with that. We can go through this very fast. You have the word strong. This one, I believe you have only added ER. Smart, the same. Smart, smarter. Brave, you have an E at the end, so I believe you have had braver. Braver. So you don't add another E. And thick, you're able to get the word thicker. And this one brings us to the end of our lesson today. I want to appreciate you for your time and for being very good learners in our class. So thank you and have a nice time.